Welcome to the Automation Unplugged podcast, the podcast for technology professionals, featuring leading industry personalities. I'm your host, Ron Callis.
Let's get started.
Hello there. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged. Today's show, I wore my Amplified People shirt. Amplified People is our hiring business at One Firefly, where we help integrators with their placements. Pretty much all of the roles inside of the business, from technicians at all levels, from entry level through experienced, sales positions, project managers, system designers, office staff, warehouse staff. We're helping integrators across the country at Amplify People with all of those roles. So today's show is brought to you by Amplify People. I hope you all are having a great spring so far. I know I've personally just done a bunch of travel for spring break, and I had no idea it was still 0 degrees in certain parts of the country. I was traveling in mid-March, and oh my goodness, some parts of the country are very cold. But hopefully by the time the show comes out in April, it's warmed up where you're at, and you are well into the spring season, and God willing, you're having a great start to your year. I know as we talk to integrators here at One Firefly, some integrators are having a banner year. They think this is going to be a breakout year for them. Others, not so much. So I would say the story is a bit mixed. We're going to hear from our guest today and see how business is going there in East Texas. So without further ado, I'm very happy to bring you good friend and client, Corby Vickers. He is the founder of 21st Century Audio Video out of Sherman, Texas. And I'm going to bring Corby on and see how he's doing. Corby, how are you, sir?
Good. How's it going?
Oh man, another day in paradise. How about you? How's life there in Sherman, Texas?
It's good. It's good. And, hearing about your story about the 0 degree weather, well, you can see I got a little bit of a sunburn from some tournament baseball over the weekend here in Texas. So it was actually up to almost 94 degrees here. So I don't miss the 0 degree stuff or the below 32 at all. So I hate to hear that, but it's almost summertime here.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. It's in the 90s there already. That's nuts. Well, I've been in Florida. I'm not from Florida, but I've been in Florida for a couple of decades now. So let's just say my blood has thinned out. So when I headed north and we were, I was traveling with my wife and son over spring break, visiting some colleges, and just super surprised at how gosh darn cold certain parts of this country are, even in what seems like spring. But I'm sure many can relate that are tuned in. But let's talk about you, Corby. Give our audience maybe just a high level. What is 21st Century Audio Video? What type of projects do you guys do, and where do you do those projects?
So we are a custom integration company founded here in North Texas in 2008. I got some background with some bigger companies earlier on, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. We basically are client focused, much like a lot of the customer or other custom integration companies. And we just, we take care of our people that, choose to do work with us. And it's something that's been very fruitful for us in the past. And, we've kind of had our peaks and valleys like most integrators have. And we've had some great years and we've had some, they weren't so hot. And, one thing that makes us a little different, I guess, from anybody else is when you call, we come and we do what we need to do, and we take care of you, whether it's remotely or it's, in person. We get there and get it solved and reduce that downtime for anyone with a system. And, it seems to work for us.
Are you primarily or entirely residentially focused, Corby?
No, we do commercial and residential. Our commercial percentage isn't quite where we want it to be yet, but that's something that we're focusing on more. We've done several pretty large scale projects in the commercial space. We enjoy that work. It's really great. It's a little bit different perspective and a little bit different needs for the client, but it's fun. I like the commercial side of things.
You do. Awesome. And are you looking as you go forward into 26, mid and towards the end of 26 and beyond, are you trying to grow the commercial side of the business, or do you have a game plan? I want 50% this and 50% that, or how do you think about it out of curiosity?
Yeah, I think our percentage in commercial needs to come up a little bit. I mean, we're probably in the single percentage range now. We're probably 95% residential and
Okay.
5% commercial. I think we want to be more around the 20% commercial.
Okay.
Moving towards the end of the year. We'll see. There's a ton of growth that's going on in Texas and North Texas, particularly. It never slowed down here like it did in some other places in the country. You can't drive anywhere here without seeing construction going on. It's unbelievable.
That's amazing. What generally is the geographic area? Do you stay there in North Texas, or do you travel out of the state on occasion?
I try to. I've had clients in the past that I've traveled to Florida and to Virginia and some other states. And I like doing that to a certain extent. But that distance sometimes can be an issue, right? Because if it's not something that can be fixed remotely, well, then there's a time difference, right, for that travel to get there, to get that fixed. Whereas, if you're within an hour or two here in North Texas, people can kind of get by for a little while with that. But when you're, a 4-hour flight plus, drive time to the airports and, all the time that it takes to get to the airports to get to there, and you're at an 8 hours just to get there, sometimes that can be an issue. I've got some clients though that have moved from Texas, and I've taken them to Virginia and taken all their stuff with them through the moving process, and then reinstalled it for them there. And I mean, I've been back once for an issue that was outside the scope. For the most part, I've been able to remote in and say, this is what's going on, and we can usually fix it right then and there. So that's been the cool thing with that. But we try to stay close.
Just so our audience has an understanding of the type of products you're working with, so what are some of the bigger brands or the vendors that are kind of your bread and butter type mix in your projects?
So historically, we've been URC. We've done a ton of stuff with URC since its inception. That goes back to my days at some of the bigger companies. I got in with them at a very early stage of the control game and just kind of stuck with it a little bit. I've done some Control 4 stuff. Recently, I picked up Savant, which is going to be our go-to. It just is going to add an even better customer experience than anything that I've been able to see. They got some things that are coming down the pipe that I can't really talk about here, but once it's released, it's going to be a game changer. It really is. Wow.
All right. Well, I'll try to, folks that are tuned in and leaning forward, I'll try to extract from Corby what we're able to learn from him about what that news is.
I just don't want to jump the shark. Like I told you a little bit earlier when we were talking, I don't want to be the guy that lets some cat out of the bag and I wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I don't want to get you or me in any trouble.
Right.
Corby, let's go back. Help us understand where you come from. What's your background? You mentioned you started, like, what'd you say, the business around, well, just give us the whole story as far back as you're willing to go.
Well, I basically grew up in the electronics business. My dad was a service manager for National Cash Register. All through my childhood, I remember being in banks. I mean, he put in the first online ATMs in Northwest Arkansas where I grew up. And I've been in bank computer rooms that were the size of most people's garage that now they wouldn't even have a third or an eighth of what computing power our phones do, right? You're talking disk drives that were 24 inches in diameter. So I was immersed in, technology and those kinds of systems at a very young age. And, I can remember at probably 6 or 7 years old, having a cable tied to my belt loop and saying, hey, crawl under this bank and let's get that cable to the other side. And I was like, wow, I didn't know any better. I was a kid, right? So those kind of things kind of stuck with me. And then, as I got into high school and got out on my own, that was, I don't want to date myself, but, that was the late 80s, early 90s. And that was the the heyday of car audio and mini trucks. And I mean, I was right there. I was involved in all that. I still have my mini truck that I had when I was 16. It's sitting out here waiting to be redone one of these days if I ever get to it. And so I kind of got into the hobby of car audio in high school. I was the guy I was lowering people's trucks, and we were doing crazy stuff in the garage. I could tell you stories about that for all day.
Are you making like
more than this podcast,
the competition trucks with like, the biggest bass and things like that?
Biggest bass. The beds were tilted like dump trucks, right? I was doing that kind of stuff in my garage. And a real quick story. One day we were, some friends were over, and my buddy goes, I want to make my truck a convertible. It's like, okay, I have all the tools. My dad had all the tools for that kind of stuff. And my mom came outside of the garage and saw me with a Sawzall cutting this guy's roof off his truck. And I thought she was going to lose her mind, right? And we were successful. We got it done. It leaked. Obviously, it was going to leak. You cut the top off of something that's not meant to be convertible
right
in that time frame. But it was cool because he was running around town without the top of his truck on. Everybody thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And his bed was tilted up, and my bed was tilted up, and we had big booming systems in the back. And it was just a fun time. And I turned that hobby into kind of a career after a short stint with my family's construction business. After my dad left NCR, he went into building, and my brother was a builder, and we were building houses, we were building metal structures, we were building all kinds of things. So I gained a ton of construction experience, which I didn't know how valuable that was going to be for me later on. But once I left that, I went into car audio, and I worked for several of the shops up there. And I kind of reached the pinnacle up there and worked for pretty much everybody in Northwest Arkansas, which, Fayetteville back then was, 36,000 people. It wasn't very big. I had the opportunity to come to North Texas, and I went to work for Car Toys, and they were launching a ton of stores. I think they opened 12 or 15 stores down here. And I got in, in kind of the middle of that, and I opened the Frisco store as one of their assistant install managers, and was doing that for a little while. And I was met one day with a gentleman that came in the back of the store. His name was Dan Olson from Ultimate Electronics. And he's like, hey, have you ever thought about doing a lot of home stuff? And I was like, that's just, it was at its infancy, right? It was 2001, 2002. It wasn't at its infancy, but it wasn't mainstream like it is now. There was specialized guys that had done that for a long time before that, but
maybe car audio was still bigger at that point than home automation and home technology.
Flat panel TVs weren't there yet. They were coming out. It was still just the smaller ones that were flat panels in the cars. And then we were doing
the ridiculously priced plasmas,
$50,000 plasma TVs. Yeah. Right. And he came on and said, hey, why don't you come to work for us? And I said, well, I'm an assistant install manager now. I'd want to come on as an install manager for you. He's like, I think I can make that happen. So I was the only person that was recruited from outside the company that came in as an install manager for the Frisco store. And we took off, and we had great salespeople, and we became one of the number one stores in the country. We had five trucks and about 15 installers that I was managing at the time. And, it was that, everybody was wanting the flat panel TVs. They didn't care if it was $50,000 or whatever. And I can remember vividly to this day, the first one we put up was a $50,000 Zenith 50-inch plasma TV. And there was 8 install guys standing around going, is this thing going to stay on the wall?
Holy cow.
And the mounts were gigantic, right? They were heavy. The TVs were heavy. We were happy to see the TVs getting smaller, because we had gone away from what we used to call the old Sony Vegas that were hernia makers, because it took, 3 or 4 people to lift those things and get them in place. And we were glad to see them kind of condensing down to a more modular on-wall type television than the big, cabinet, big screen TVs from Mitsubishi that, were huge. And they were great, right? We sold a ton of them, we installed a ton of them. And then, just to be involved in that and the growth of the industry back then, it was, I don't want to say it was the best time in the industry, but it was a really good time in the industry, right? The TV technology was changing. Then you had the invention of HDNet, and the high definition television came along, which was, I used to tell people it was like from going from black and white to color for the first time, right? It was like from going from color to high definition was such a big jump. It was like once you saw it, you couldn't hardly go back, right?
Yeah.
And so that started to become mainstream, and Ultimate ran into some issues with some things they were doing, and they parted the world as far as an entity goes. And I went to Best Buy and launched Magnolia in Plano with some of the guys from Ultimate. We all kind of just went right from there to Best Buy. And that was for Best Buy, that was a huge thing, right? Because they didn't have the higher end equipment that they were able to get with Magnolia that came along. And then the experience of the guys that had been installing the things that were higher end from like a Ultimate Electronics or a Tweeter or some of the other places that all kind of met their demise at the same time. It was a really cool thing, because what Best Buy did very well in around 2005 timeframe was they were able to bring in a lot of people and do a lot of business. And we hit the ground running, and I was teaching, training people how to install. And, there was a huge lack of, I don't want to say talent, but there was a huge lack of experience for people to know how to install things in houses and things back then. And it was a challenge that we had to work to get through. And, it was fun, but it was demanding. At that
You
time.
probably had to create, Best Buy, I would imagine, was, up there with like Sound Advice in Florida and Tweeter and Ultimate, where you really had to like develop the training curriculum to bring in the greener people into the business so that you'd have enough bandwidth to get all this work done. That's
the training side of
the
things.
birth of the industry.
Yeah, the training side of things for I can say for Best Buy, when we went, everybody that went to work for them flew to Minneapolis, right? We went to the corporate headquarters, and the guys that were running the install training for home theater were MECP certified car guys, which in my experience, you could take a really good car guy and make him a really awesome home guy, but you couldn't take a really good home guy and make him a car guy. You could, but it took a lot longer, right? And so the training side of things, it had its hiccups in the beginning, but we worked through it, and it went from being kind of a corporate centralized thing to then we kind of took it to the guys that had the most experience in the regions and said, all right, these are going to be the go-to guys. If you guys aren't sure what's going on, we'll get with them and their management team, and we'll figure out the solutions. And that's kind of one of the positions I was in when I left in 2008. And was able to start my own company. And man, I tell you, I never have looked back, right? It was
what led you to that decision in 2008? That was right in the financial crisis. That was right when I started this business. I started in November of 2007, before the financial crisis was announced.
I don't want to say I shot myself in the foot, but for me, I felt like I was in a glass ceiling environment where I couldn't move on. I couldn't move up. I was one of the best installers in the market, right? But I was being passed over by guys that were, maybe a little more management experience, a little more sales experience. And I was like, I think I need to go a different direction. And I was single at the time. My wife and I hadn't got together yet. So I was, we talked a little bit earlier about me being a lone wolf, right? And that was kind of the thing that really started the whole gelling process of 21st Century Audio Video coming together. I had a really good client at the time that he happened to come in the store, and I was working in the store at Best Buy at the end, right? They'd moved me into the store, and it was miserable. I was an outside install guy in the field all the time. That freedom of being able to go to the job sites and do what I needed to do. And I felt like I was a caged dog at that point, and it was okay. I was still doing well financially. But my client came in and he said, why don't we just do your own thing? And I was like, what? Excuse me.
You hadn't even thought of that. Yeah.
I hadn't at the time. He was like, let's just do your own thing. And, he came along and gave me a jump start. And he was a very well seasoned businessman that kind of said, hey, this is what you should and shouldn't do. And you're going to have growing pains in the first little bit. And Unfortunately, we lost him. I think it was about a year later. He succumbed to cancer. So I just kept the ball and just kept running with it, right? And the first 5 years were pretty tough, like everybody says, right? The first 5 years of business is pretty hard. Met some milestones in there, did some really big things close to after that 5-year mark. And like everybody else that's in this industry, you got some really great, oh my gosh, that was the best thing ever. Well, put your skis on because you're going downhill for a little while, right?
What goes up goes down, and
that's
if you're
right.
lucky,
That's
goes
right.
back up.
And you try to brace for impact and hope you don't hit any of the pine trees on the way down the slopes, and try to get back on and go back to the top again, right? And I think that's been us in a nutshell.
I think that's the encapsulation of being an entrepreneur right there, just in that statement.
Yeah. So it's definitely had its moments that I was like, man, why did I decide to do this again? And then it's had its moments of, yeah, this is exactly why I decided to do this. And going out on my own in 2008 was the biggest life-changing decision aside from what we talked about in November, for my business and my company and my personal life and in my soon-to-be married life and family. It was the biggest positive decision that I've ever done.
That's amazing. So now 2008, so you got some time under your belt running the business. How are things going right now? Like, what's the current state of the business? Are you on a up trajectory, a down trajectory, a flat trajectory? If you just like look in the rear view mirror at the last, say, year or two, when you now cast vision ahead, what does it look like?
So the last, so 2024, 2025, I had some challenges. I moved away from you guys for a little while, which was not a smart decision on marketing, thinking I could, again, lone wolf it and do it on my own. Hey, don't try it. If you're anybody listening, just do what you're supposed to do and let these guys do the marketing for you, because you'll be money ahead in the end. So, I tried to do my own website, and I thought I could, I'm tech savvy. I'm an AV integrator. I work with computers all the time. No problem, right? Yeah, no. While you can do things out there that are, and that was really before ChatGPT and some of the other AIs had come online to help with coding, but you get a cookie cutter site, you get that look, and somebody goes to your site, they're like, what in the world is this guy thinking with this website? You would have been better off just giving me a handwritten business card than trying to send me to that website to sell me something.
So let's pull a thread on this. And as everyone that listens or watches the show, they know we don't make this show about marketing. And so I don't want to make it about marketing, but I do want to make it about being a small business owner. You and I are both small business owners. A lot of the people listening in are small business owners. And one of the challenges we have in business is understanding what are we best at and what do we best enjoy doing. I believe in being a little bit selfish and doing things that you enjoy and you're good at, delegating everything else.
Right.
But that's hard it's easy to say, hard to learn, especially when you see like hiring that person on your team. You got to pay a salary, or hiring a consultant or a contractor or an agency. You got to see money go out. That hurts, right? You see that money go out. You're like, that could be going into my kid's college, savings account, right? Why am I going to send it over there to those folks? And you made a common decision. I would say that almost every single person listening has made at some point, which is they had engaged somebody for whatever that thing was. In this case, it was marketing. And then you were looking at the expense every month and you said, well, hey, I think if I stop paying them, I could do it. How hard is it? And I could, keep that money in my bank account. Is that approximately the thought process you went through? And this was a number of years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the hardest things for me has always been the marketing side of it, because it's just, like you said, you want to see a tangible amount come back to what you're putting out. And sometimes, marketing, depending on what you're doing, can be like owning a boat, right? You're taking money and you're just dumping it out in the water and hoping you get back to shore. So for me, that was always a challenge. And it took really, I don't want to say a divine intervention, but I have another really good client who's a very successful businessman that he was with me as a client when all this started happening, right? And I'd done his system for his house, and he'd met me through the previous website that we had through One Firefly. And he's when I migrated away from that, there was a big story that's behind that, which may not be for now, but long story short, we kind of moved from where we were to a little further up north. And in that time frame, when that move happened, Google marked my business closed through an email, which I didn't see. It went into the spam folder. And once I finally saw it, it was 2 months after it had happened. And I had people that were calling me asking me, well, is your business closed? I'm like, no, what is that? And once I finally found that, and one, you can't talk to anyone at Google. You can, but it's really a daunting process, right? You have to send a number of emails and finally get somebody back in line. And I lost all the traction from the marketing that we'd had in place, along with the website that we'd had previously, and all the SEO.
Oh, your online search visibility.
Oh, it was gone.
Washed away when you flipped to
in an instant. It was gone, and that was. I don't want to say it was no mistake of mine, because it probably was a mistake of mine because I didn't catch the email, but. I was in the middle of trying to build where we're at and, keep the business going and do a lot of the things. And I was spread so thin at that point that if I picked up the computer in a week, that was a miracle. Right. And once I got back through all that storm and landed my feet back on the ground from the tornadic experience that it caused, I was like, man, what was that? What happened? Right. So I went back to basics, right? I went back to spending X amount of time on this part of the business and that part of the business, and then focusing on the customer and getting the projects finished and all of that. And that turned things around, but it was a long process, right? And then I don't know if you want me to talk about November or whatever, but
yeah, sure. Continue as you were. Yeah.
I went to CEDIA in September and visited with people out there like we do in the industry. And I met with Origin Acoustics and decided that I was going to pick them up as a line. And I went to Origin Acoustics in November to their new vendor training or new dealer training, and sitting there on the first day, and Ron Callis walks out, and I'm like, man, what in the world? And we actually sat down and had lunch together. And I told you that day, I said, moving away from One Firefly was probably the worst business decision that I ever made as a business owner. And that was a heartfelt truth that, there was nothing that I wanted to gain from that. I was going to let you know that, man, I dug a hole and I was burying my own self with the shovel until I finally stood up and said, enough is enough. And went back to the relationships that I had established in the past and relied on, and decided to put that back in place. And in the meantime, I kept working on my own on the back end of things. And I'd had my website redone again with the help of, the client that I mentioned. It was under his mentorship. He said, man, you got to get that website out of there that's there, because it was it was elementary, right? In a collegiate world, it was very elementary. And, I know not to ever do that again.
Opinion, Corby, why does that matter? Right? Because you and I have both heard, but I'll say I probably heard it more often, that so many business owners, particularly in the category that you're in, which is like you're providing services to people in your community, people will tell me, or they thoroughly believe I get all my work through referral, and my website really doesn't matter. And in fact, air quotes, marketing or branding or positioning don't matter. And I obviously feel differently, but like from your perspective, you've had like this experience where it sounds like you now believe it does matter.
It absolutely matters. And referrals are huge, right? Referrals are the only reason that I'm sitting here today talking to you, that kept me going enough to be able to sit here and say, hey, we've turned a corner and we're doing things back like we were again. If it hadn't been for that referral business, like I said, I would have gone back to work for somebody else at this point, because I couldn't have kept going. That and my wife, being who she is and what she does. Without the website, telling people who you are and getting the word out of, you can be a guy that's going, hey, I'm here doing what I want to do. But if you don't have that website that says, let's investigate this guy a little bit further, let's see if there's any truth to what he's saying, and let's see if he can actually do what he mentions he can do and provide what services he says he can provide. Without that, yes, you can stay in business. Yes, you can have referral. You can do great economically and do all the things that you want to do, but you're never going to get to the next step that you might want to get to without having that marketing and without having that plan in place that says, hey, I've done X, Y, and Z through the years through this method. But in order to scale and to go to the next level, I'm going to have to take a step back a little bit and let go of some of that and put people in place that actually know what works and what doesn't, because that's what they do every day. Instead of a guy like me that's like, oh, yeah, I can figure that out, right?
Because you're smart and you probably could. The sad thing is it's just not the only thing on your plate.
Right. And then you get into it and you're like, wow, there's way more facets to this than I realized. It's not just a matter of getting some keywords on your website and, then Google finds you and does all the crawling for you and does all those wonderful things that is SEO, which, anybody who's got a website and is SEO is a long process. It's not something that you can just turn on. And if anybody tells you you can get SEO results in a month, I'd run as far away from them as I could, because there's no way. I've done it myself on my own side of things. And it took almost 6 months of every week, almost every day of trying to do something, whether it was a blog or whatever, changing and tweaking. And it just got to be, I was spending more time with that than I was out taking care of the people that are taking care of me. Right. And you just have to make that decision if you want to get to the level that you want to get to. If you have a goal that you want to get to, well, yes, you can get there with referrals. But if those referrals don't have residuals attached to them, you're going to be a long, long time getting there.
I appreciate that perspective. And I imagine that's going to be helpful. So to even one person that's listening to understand that journey you've been on, that process that sounds like you've been on over the last 6 months has even gone beyond marketing. You're evaluating your business processes, your products that you sell. Take us through some of those other decisions and or analysis that you're going through as you've made this decision that you want to grow your business, you want to scale your business.
So one of the things that, a lot of the other integrators that are out there to listen to this will think I'm crazy for saying this, but through a lot of the years of me doing this, I always just took care of people. I never charged extra. I never did service plans. I never did things like that, which I didn't realize how big that could be. Right. And through the mentorship of my client, again, he's like, he's in the service plan type business. And he's like, you really need to push yourself into service plans. So after we met in November, I really started focusing in December on getting those put in place. And I put it out on the website, and I did some just real quick MailChimp marketing just to see what there was a feel for it. And I started getting all these responses back going, yeah, we want to do this one. Yeah, we want to do that one. I was like, wow.
Mind blown.
How big of an idiot have I been?
They want to give you money every month.
Right. I don't want to say I was leaving money on the table, because it's kept a good client base. There's been some that I've lost over the way that, you didn't offer it in the beginning. You're like, hey, I remoted in. I got to charge for that. And they're like, oh, we'll just get somebody else. I was like, well, that doesn't make sense, but okay. So that kind of sparked the whole thing of, you can give things away for a really long time. And as soon as you try to charge for it after the fact, if it's not done in the right way, it can be kind of a deterrent from your business model. But when you offer it and you speak to it and you build that confidence with your client that says, depending on what tier you're on, and tiered services, you can do a basic one, which we're still going to cover you. All that's doing is basically covering our time to remote into your system once a year or whatever it is. And then we'll discount your labor rate. Right. And they think it's the greatest thing in the world. And it is, because it covers if you have to roll the truck. It covers the things that you may have done for free, like I did, which most people probably didn't do. But
I bet many
that's,
listening probably have been doing service for free and
I
have
mean,
had similar opinions that they're taking care of their customer, and that's their idea of customer service. And I
I
think
think
that's true. It is customer service, but you are better positioned as an entrepreneur to build a team capable of serving the volume of your customers if you have the right revenue flow and cash
right.
flow in your business.
And that's been one of the other things too. I've always been relatively small. I've had up to 3 guys at one point, and COVID happened, and I went back to just myself again. And well, COVID for us was crazy. I mean, it was ridiculous. The whole thing around COVID was a tragedy for everybody that was involved and the people that it affected. But from an integrator standpoint, all the people at home wanted us to come in, make their systems work and their outdoor audio. And I did more outdoor audio in 2020 and 2021 than I'd done in the previous 3 years combined.
Wow.
And it was just the simple fact that people were stuck at home, and we were deemed essential. We could go because we provided network services and things like that. And I always, back to the service side of things, I think it goes back to my time at Best Buy and Ultimate. I mean, we didn't offer those service plans then. I mean, I don't know what Best Buy does now, but in 2008, when I left, service plans weren't a thing. And if there was an issue, we got in the truck and we went and did it, right? We just went and took care of it, made sure their systems were working. And I just always did that as a courtesy, as a kind of a thank you. And yeah, there's probably been a couple of those jobs that I probably lost my shorts on because I didn't charge for those service calls, but the people were happy, right? And sometimes a happy person can bring a way bigger impact to your business than someone that says, man, he tried to charge me to come out here and I'll never use him again, right?
Yeah.
And so I fought with that for a little while, and I finally made the decision, all right, we're going to go for it. I'm going to publish it. I'm going to send out some emails. There's going to be people that fall off, that unsubscribe, whatever. That's fine. And you have to kind of develop that thick skin of, it's kind of like door-to-door sales, right? If you don't have a thick skin, you're going door-to-door sales. You're never going to make it past the second door because you're going to get that no, and you're going to like, this isn't for me. And people may not want to do that. Then you've already told them now through the marketing email that says, hey, we're still here. We're still going to take care of you. But if we have to come out, or if we have to come work on your system remotely, we reserve the right to charge for that. And I haven't had a single person that said, that's ridiculous. I'm not doing that. I sold in the first month, I sold over 12 service plans with one email.
Wow.
And then I sold another 6 with a follow-up email. And then I've sold some on site, person to person when I've gone for service or gear replacement or whatever. But I couldn't believe
the response.
I couldn't believe the impact. And
wow,
it's a huge thing. So if you guys aren't doing service plans, or you've been scared to get into it, figure it out.
What's one tip regarding the tip to do it is already a brilliant tip. But for those that are now very much on the edge of their seat, what's one of the things you said, or the way you've designed these service plans, the way you presented them? Like, what's one tip that you think perhaps led to your success rate?
Well, for me, it was the mentorship of my client that's in his company provides software for car dealerships to write service contracts for people. And, he's got a multifaceted business structure where he's in several different businesses. But he said, if you're not doing service plans, you're missing the boat for your residual income that can pay for that marketing, or that next truck, or that new tech, or whatever it happens to be. And for me, like we spoke about a little earlier, trying to go to the next tier and the next level, which, when you're a young guy, when you're in your 20s and 30s and some of your 40s, and you're doing install work, and you're making 6 figures, you're doing great stuff. And at some point you're going to come to the realization, just as I did, that I've done everything I need to do as far as integration goes. I have nothing left to prove outside of some brand new technology that we may not have on board yet. I've done every install that I could possibly do. now it's time for me to grow the company to something that I can leave to my kids, or that I could sell, or to build on the time that I've already invested in the company of some things that I should have been doing. But that stuff now is neither here nor there. It's today forward, right? So you have to, residual clients and word of mouth is great, but how much better can it be when you put people in place that can take you to the second, third, fourth, fifth tier from where you are now? And there's people that are doing it every day. I've listened to some of your podcasts of some of the guys that are, are very successful at doing what they do. And it just amazes me to hear their perspective and what they do. And, like I was talking to you earlier, I listened to that one, and he told the story of how much it cost to add a tech, how much that tech needs to add to the bottom line of the company. And that's something that, while I know I needed to add a tech, I never had a dollar amount put to it until I heard that from him. And I was like, wow, that really makes a lot of sense. And it changes a lot of perspectives, because sometimes when you're a small guy and you're the integrator, you're the sales guy, you do all the things. Like I said, you can stay busy and you can do a lot of things, but you're the bottleneck that's holding everything back, because you can only do so much.
So true.
And as you get older, if you don't learn to start letting go of some of that and letting some of the people, not necessarily that are younger, but are more experienced in doing some of those things like marketing or, social media, or some of those things that you may struggle with, you may not, I don't know. If you don't start putting some of the stuff in place and stepping out of your own way, you're always going to get the same result, from my experience, because I've been in business since 2008. Yeah, the first 5 years were slow, but after that, I've been able to do everything I wanted to do with my family. We built a brand new house, and in that time frame, we lived in it for a while. We sold it. We moved to a farm. We homeschool our kids. And that's all because of being able to do the things that I've been able to do with the company. And I know that there's a bigger picture out there, because I see the companies out there that are doing, tens of millions of dollars a year. I don't know that I'll ever get to that point, but I want to be above where I'm at now and where I've been in the past, right?
2 or 3x your business pretty reasonably in the next 3 to 5 years. That's very attainable. And if you do it right, that all tracks right to the bottom line and should increase your net that or even more.
If you're not going for 2x, 3x, you're not a business per se. You're a business because you're your own boss. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit the computer.
You're self-employed. You're
self-employed. You don't really have a boss that you report to, but you do. It's your client. But in order to get that to, like we said, the 2 and 3x, you got to step back and you got to put the things in place and the people in place through marketing, through taxes, there's a big group, right? And sometimes when you back up and you look at it, it can be scary, but if you don't, you're delaying. And that's the best analogy I can put out there. The more you push back on that, the further out you're getting it. Because
Amen.
It's scary, right? It's scary for everybody who's in business, because you're in business for yourself. It's all on your shoulders. And the thing about getting other people in place is, yes, you still have those things on your shoulders, but you're taking some of that responsibility and you're placing it in someone else's job description. And then you can take that off,
taking the monkey off your back, putting it on somebody else's back and holding them accountable. You
can take that off your plate and make it a reportable task versus a tangible task that you have to do. So for me, that's where I'm at, and that's where we're trying to go. And I have goals in mind, and I have ideas of where I want to be, and we're on a good track this year. This is probably the best start of a year that we've had probably since inception. I've had some big years. But this one's on track to be probably the biggest if we keep going the way we're going.
Congratulations. It's well earned.
Super thankful for that. And I don't take that lightly, and I don't take anything for granted. I can safely say that this year is because of the things that I dug into mid last year and said, I've got to do something different. I've got to figure something out that I can get the revenue coming back. And that's, part of the service plans and part of some of the other things. And we're getting ready to launch a newsletter that's a subscription thing. And, for people that don't know about home theater, that's something that we may look at doing as well, where, hey, for X amount of dollar subscription, we'll be glad to consult with you and show you the right path and get you in the right direction.
Corby, I'm mindful of time and I want to rapid fire some topics. Get your take.
Shoot.
Hot takes, we'll call it. Micro LEDs. What does it mean for you and what does it mean for this industry?
Micro LED is going to be the biggest thing since plasma television. Anybody who was at CEDIA this last year in October, there's been micro LEDs there in the past. There's a few manufacturers, but this year, or this last year at CEDIA, there was 7, and they're big, and they're residential focused, which it's always been a commercial thing, right? When you go to the stadiums and you see the big LED boards, or you go to Las Vegas and you see the Sphere, well, that's a $1 billion project, first of all. But when you can scale that down now and you can put micro LED in someone's home theater that's got 100,000 hours versus a projector that's got a 4,000 hour bulb that before it's replaced. And then probably another 2 or 3 times that you do that, the color wheel's gone and you replace the projector. Well, some people have a pretty sizable investment in projection systems in their house. $50,000 projector is not unheard of and up, right? And when you can come in and have a micro LED system that not only is modular, right? So you can, you've got certain many sections and, well, one went out. Well, it came with 10% extra. So if one goes out, you plug it in. But the cool thing about some of the micro LEDs that I've seen is the software and the hardware inside those systems will match the new one that you put in to the old used ones. So you've got a complete system that still looks the same as it did when you first put it in. May not be as bright, but it's going to be a game changer. The more affordable those become, the more obsolete the plasmas are obsolete anyway, but the LED, LCD screens that we've all been putting in for so long.
Are you designing these into your projects now, or you're planning to design them into your projects? Where do they sit for you?
We've offered some on a couple of projects, and it's just not where they wanted to be yet. We've got some projects that are upcoming that are going to be some very large commercial, which we talked a little bit about earlier. That's going to be an ongoing thing for us. It's a multifaceted facility that has a ton of people that come through it. So that's something that we'll be looking at getting done. So
you have a favorite brand?
I mean, for right now,
any favorites here in this semi-confidential forum with, folks tuned in?
For feasibility for the client, AWOL right now has probably got the market cornered as far as affordability goes, but there's others that are out there. I mean, I saw some at CEDIA that were just unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
And
the demos, the booths now are just so fun.
Yeah, and there's so many different ones. It's almost going to be one of those things that it's going to be a client preference on which one they saw that they like the most, right? And that's the other cool aspect about the micro LED. You can go, well, I've got A, B, and C in one panel right here, and you can compare them without having to take them to a showroom somewhere, which we've never had a showroom. I don't know that we ever will, and that may be, I've been advised that we probably shouldn't go that way with the world of the internet, and another reason to have the good website, because that's your storefront. But to have that ability to open up a case and you've got 3 or 4 different examples of the same type of technology with different manufacturers and say, which one do you like the most? And they go, this one. Well, it's going to be cool. XYZ. Right.
All right. Another hot take. Lightapalooza. I ran into you there. I know you were buzzing around that show. What were any big takeaways for you here out of the beginning of the 2026?
Well, first of all, I'm probably late to the game on that as well, but I had no idea that segment was coming along as much as it is with AV integrators, right? Because now we're able to get into the landscape lighting, the external permanent lighting space, which may be something that we look at doing in the future. Along the lines of the permanent lighting, when I flew to CEDIA in December, I was sitting next to a CEO of an external lighting company, and we talked and we visited, and I was like, man, there's sometimes that things happen that you just shouldn't try to explain. You
Right.
just say thank you.
Yep.
Right. And, that's like our encounter in November. And then there's been some other ones that I mentioned to you. And Lightapalooza was another one. I sat down with Steven, one of your guys, and we started talking. And I told you at Origin that it was a huge mistake. And the thing that struck me the most, you do a ton of this stuff for a lot of big companies, right? And the only words that came out of your mouth were, "We'll come back." That's exactly what you said. And I was like, most people in the position that you're in would have either snickered or been like, "Idiot, why did you leave in the first place?" But your words were, "We'll come back." And I was like, I came home and I told my wife, and I'm not trying to get away from what you were talking about with Lightapalooza, but I was like, there's something that is happening here that is exactly what it's supposed to be. And I'm just going to sit back and I'm going to let it happen. And I found out that Lightapalooza was going on, and it wound up being where not only it was going to be a trip for me, but I was able to bring my family. My wife was off. She's a nurse, which she works 12-hour shifts, and she was off in that time frame. So we were able to take our kids and go to Kalahari, and I was able to do
great. They must have
thing,
loved
and they
that.
were able to go do their thing. And I first walked through the doors at Lightapalooza, and the first booth I saw was you guys to my right. And I was like, I get it. I get it. And I sat down with Steven and we hatched a plan, and I was like, this feels so right. And then to understand the aspect of lighting with Lightapalooza and some of the connections that I reestablished with some people that I was connected to in the past at Lightapalooza, and to see what we can offer and what we can do. And,
What'd you think of the education at Lightapalooza?
I mean, it was fantastic.
It's really wonderful, isn't it? I
It,
mean, it's such a education-rich environment.
there was a lot of it was hands-on, which being an integrator, being a guy that's been in the field, putting things in for a living for so long, was right up my alley. Right. And LED light strips are not the most amazing thing in the world, but they're a game changer if you know how to put them in the system and to make it work as part of the system and change someone's lifestyle through those kind of things. And that was some of the things that I took away from training. I'd worked with LEDs in the past. I put it in our stuff that I built here. And, but this project that I'm working on, that was one of the biggest ones we've done, has got integrated LEDs in the walls and around the screen and around the sitting platform and all the things that we're doing. And we added some little 2-inch lighting that are RGBW, and it's all going to work together. And the guy can go in and say, watch movie, and it all goes to whatever.
When done well, it absolutely generates awe. Like the customer is in awe of a space when lighting is integrated well.
I posted a video the other day on Instagram of we're about done with the first phase, and I've got more views off of that first phase video than any other videos I've ever done in the past.
Wow.
And I've done some pretty cool stuff. I mean, I did
an outdoor video you posted on Instagram.
Yeah.
Wow. Last week. And that's a great shout out. When did you start shooting your own stuff and putting it out there? Because
after I visited with Steven at Lightapalooza.
Steven was rattling you and say, you got to start posting this stuff?
Well, I like to think that if I could have been filming this stuff back in the day when I started this, I'd have been a pioneer, right? But obviously we didn't take the time to do that. And I've always been mission focused on getting the project done and getting the client happy and making sure they got everything they wanted. And to realize that there's a huge avenue there that I could take advantage of. I mean, I acquired this guy, the old gimbal.
Oh, you got a gimbal.
That's so brilliant. To be able to take care of stuff and to film that and the video I posted was one take. I did it in one take. I edited a little bit of the front, a little bit of the back, and it was gone. And the traction of it was unbelievable. I was like, wow. Another thing, like service plans. Why haven't you been doing this before?
Yeah.
And it's just one of those, you don't know it till you try it, really. And social media is such a hard, it's an easy thing, but it's a hard thing, right? And it's got this caveat around it that like, oh, you shouldn't try to do this, or you shouldn't try to do organic stuff, or you should do paid. And you get into that whole paid versus organic thing, and it just, I just walk away from it at that point. I'm just like, I got things to do. I'll worry about that later.
I give up. I give up. It makes sense.
And to see the traction it's received, and I see some of the guys that I'm around outside of work, and I see some of the things that they're posting and the kind of traction that they're getting. I'm like, I got to keep doing this. This is, stay out of your way again. Everybody's got that self-conscious thing of, oh, I don't want to be on camera. I don't look right, or I don't, whatever. Just do it. Gary Vaynerchuk is very well versed. He's like, if you can get on TikTok and post a video every day for a year, you'll never have to worry about things again.
Yep.
And I don't know how true that is, but to hear that perspective and for him to just say, just go for it. What do you have to lose? You're not doing anything now. Why? What difference does it make? Just go. Just do it.
Amen.
So I've kind of taken that and run with it, but sorry if I got off topic there.
No, I love it. We're gonna wrap up there. I'm even gonna go ahead and put on screen, because you were just telling us you posted this fantastic video that you're gonna be posting even more of. So I just put your Instagram handle for everyone watching or listening. You can find Corby in 21st Century Audio Video on Instagram at 21 ST Century Audio Video. So 21st Century Audio Video. But Corby, I wanted to thank you for coming on the show, man. It was awesome running into you again in November, and then again at LIDA, and now to connect with you here on the show and let you share your story with our audience. I'm delighted at your success. I'm delighted for you that this is the best start to a year you've had in your entrepreneurial adventures so far, and I'm confident you're just getting started. So,
well, I know with our renewed partnership, we're going to go to the moon, right? So, and I appreciate you guys and your hospitality, and you guys have always had time. I'm not a big guy. I'm not a big company. I've got aspirations to be a big company, but I'm not there yet. And I've never been treated otherwise, right? You guys have always, just like you said, come back. That's huge. And for anybody who's ever been on the fence about, coming to work and letting Ron do your stuff, man, don't. He's top notch, top tier. And you guys will get everything you need and more, because these guys are the best. So I appreciate your time, and thank you for having me on,
Corby. That's amazing. Heartfelt. Thank you. It's very kind. You didn't need to say those things, but thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm looking forward to a lot of big things with you guys. So we're just getting started again, and I'm ready to rock and roll with it.
All right. How can people that want to talk to you directly, Corby, they want to connect with you? Where can we send them? And whatever you rattle off, I'm going to put on screen so people can follow along if they're watching us.
Well, phone is first way, 972-757-4002. If I don't pick up, I'm with a client. Just leave me a message. I'll get back with you, or shoot me a text. The other is email, corby@21stav.com. The website's got a form on there. You can contact us that way as well. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, some X. I'm not on there very much. I probably should be more, but
I don't post on X. Actually, I'm about to start, but I'm on X personally because it's such a great news source. But yeah, sorry.
I just never jumped onto it. Right. So I probably should do more of that. And hopefully in the future, I'll have more time on my hands where I can actually do some new things like that. And,
so my tip for X is I'm not sure for you, Corby, or the folks listening, it's going to do much to drive business. So I'm not advocating that at all. But if you're interested in any subject, maybe it's news. For me, I've got some hobbies, like, cryptocurrency, AI, futurist type technologies, so just some categories where I like to know what's happening in the world. X is really wonderful to give you real-time feeds of that information, like up to the minute, up to the second news that's happening somewhere in the world.
A crypto question: on exchange or off exchange in a cold wallet?
Oh no, everything. I keep a nominal. This is I'm a target. I keep everything in a cold wallet, cold storage.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can't get me. Please stop trying. And but a nominal amount on exchange. I mean, I acquire on exchanges, but no, I just swipe it. Maybe one day it'll be worth zero, and maybe one day it'll be worth a lot of money. I have no idea. But
XRP to the moon, right?
I've been playing the game for a little bit, and it's fun. It's fun
It is.
to
It is. I'm into it as well. So
it's fun to learn and to try to like learn how to read macro and learn finance and then interpret that through what's happening in the world of blockchain technologies. I think a lot of things are changing in this world,
for sure.
and it's fun and interesting to follow it and to at least try to follow along. I'm 99% of it's way over my head, but like that 1% I get.
Yeah.
So, all right, buddy. Corby, thank you so much, my friend, for coming on the show. And
Pleasure. Thank you.
we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Right.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.